Before I begin, shout out to this man for making me this beautiful masterpiece. I will leave a link to his Twitch channel in the description, but anyway, let's begin this. Blood of the Dead. Fuck the intro. So I'm going to try my hardest to devoid these maps of any context that they're remakes and treat them as actual maps. There is going to be mentioning of it here and there, of course, but I just want to reiterate that before I start. So anyway, Blood of the Dead. I already made a video on this map a while back. Don't watch that video, it's fucking awful. And I'll basically say whatever I said there, but with more context and detail. So how does this map play? The map is surprisingly much simpler than Mob of the Dead, where the necessities, power, and pack-a-punch are very simple to acquire. The afterlife system has been completely removed in the favor of 2 power switches, and the pack-a-punch can be acquired by using the shield. The prices of the doors have been significantly reduced. You can basically get the entire map opened up by round 2 or 3, and if you manage your points well enough, you can even pack-a-punch by round 4 or 5. Having an early game being this fast is something that I always enjoy. However, getting everything else can be a hassle. The reason why is because of the map layout. The prison in and out of itself is intact, there's pretty much 0 changes to it. What they did instead is remove the bridge and replace it with a very large area in the outskirts of the island, and the other side being the warden's house, which is a small area added. Now this isn't that much of a problem when you're talking about a small map like 5 or Nuketown, but we're talking about Mob of the Dead here. At the time, Mob was, I think, top 5 largest maps in zombies history. When you take a map that large and not only basically doubling the size of the area, but also completely removing mechanics that were designed specifically for that map, the map feels clunky as fuck. Like I said in my old video, if we were playing in a ruined version of the prison, where everything is broken down and the layout changes that way, the developers will have much more freedom in designing the layout. Now, like I said, the map is so simple that this isn't too much of an issue, but it's more of an issue in the Easter egg, which... give me a second on that, okay? I'm gonna talk about that disaster later on. Then you have the wonder weapons. Returned from Mob of the Dead, the Retriever, and the Blundergat, the treatment that they get on this map is very confusing. Getting the Retriever is the same as it was in Mob of the Dead, and the damage of the thing is basically the exact same. And the Redeemer's steps have been changed, but getting it is not too difficult. However, this equipment has been nerfed significantly. The nerf isn't in the damage, it's actually on how many zombies it could kill. It's very inconsistent. Most of the time I'm getting 3 to 4 kills per throw. The thing that confuses me is that the Wraithfire can kill more than an entire horde, and it also has infinite damage. And you just get it by leveling up your account. So this nerf feels really unnecessary. Speaking of unnecessary nerfs, let's talk about the Blundergat. Both the Sweeper and the Vitrolic Withering are worse than their original forms. The Sweeper having a nerf to its fire rate, and the Vitrolic Withering being a nerf to its overall damage. Okay, so you nerf both of these weapons, okay, which is fine. That alone is fine. But then you create a Blundergat variant that not only is better than both of these weapons on Black Ops 4, but on Black Ops 2 as well. Speaking of which, let's talk about the new wonder weapon, the Magma Gat. It's a pretty cool wonder weapon and it's really effective at killing Brutus, but it's nothing special and it's nothing exciting. Now there is a bunch of side Easter eggs for melee weapons, but they're melee weapons, so nothing very entertaining either. But what is very entertaining is this map's Easter egg. It is comically terrible. First, let's start from the beginning in the intro cutscene. Our 4 characters go retrieve their blood vials, they try to leave, and the warden says no. So the Easter egg revolves around you trying to leave the prison. Okay, this is a promising start, but it goes all the way down as soon as we start this Easter egg. First of all, this Easter egg makes no fucking sense. The first step where you knife this wall and then get the warden to destroy that wall in order to get inside the room, that one is fine. But why do we need this red orb over here? Why do we need more of these red orbs to open up this area? Why is there a cryo freezer inside? Why doesn't a single character make any remark about this cryo freezer? But setting aside the story, the gameplay is also just fucking obnoxious. Now the steps in and out of itself, the ideas themselves, they're not bad. They're actually really cool ideas. The problem is 2 things. The first is the map layout, as I said in the beginning of this section. For those of you who don't know, the middle part of this Easter egg requires you to do 5 challenges. The way to activate these challenges are as follows. You go to the warden's house, get a code, go down to the spiraling staircase, put in your code, and then the lighthouse in the warden's house will show you where to go. You go into that area and you start your challenge. Let's look at one of the challenges, for example, the one where you have to kill the ghost with the trap. So, you have to go to the warden's house, get your code, go put in your code in the spiraling staircase, then go all the way back to spawn, start your challenge, go all the way back to the original mob of the dead spawn, and once you kill a zombie there, the ghost will appear. You do all of that shit just to start the challenge. Oh, and by the way, if you fail your challenge, you have to go into the warden's house again the next round, get another code, and restart the entire process. Does that sound tedious enough? Oh, but it gets worse. After you finish the step where you have to destroy the wall, every single step after it, that includes every single challenge by the way, requires the shield. And each step mentioned requires at least 2 shield blasts, which is 6 kills using the key in the shield. Now that doesn't sound too bad until you realize 1 kill with the shield to charge it up requires 5 seconds, and some steps require 4 shield blasts, which is literally a full minute of just charging your shield up. And the shield is so weak even after you upgrade it, it feels like it's made out of fucking paper. This is really the reason why this Easter egg takes so long to do. In my game that I did, it took me 3 in-game hours to beat, and most of my time wasted is just me getting these shield blasts. Now, I think it's very important to repeat what I said, is that these Easter egg steps remove the shield from the equation, and they're not that bad. Say you look at the cafeteria step, the one where you have to kill the ghost with the trap. Imagine instead of draining him with the shield, you have to get there before he does and you're swarmed by zombies constantly. Or instead of shield blasting the guy with the levers, you pull the levers yourself. And if the developers really want to add a way to interact with the ghosts, they could have done it in a much better way. Imagine having a wonder weapon that all players can get, and this wonder weapon is the way to get souls from the zombies. But as you collect souls, you get buffs to your movement, to your health, that sort of thing. That way, getting souls is rewarding, and you don't have to worry about it breaking like the shield. Something along those lines would have made for a much better experience. Using the shield is not fun, regardless of what anyone tells you. Yes, there is a method to get more shield blasts, but the problem is that the shield in and out of itself, it's not fun to get the souls, and the durability is awful. And when the shield breaks, you lose all of the shield blasts that you have, regardless of how many you had. If you don't have a full shield before starting any of the challenges, good luck trying to complete them. Look at this clip where I forgot to repair my shield. I had 3 shield blasts, I lost all of them, and I had to get them again. But oh, I lost the ghost, and I failed the challenge. So much fun. I love that. So after my 3 hours of pretty much pain and suffering, I go into probably the easiest boss fight of all time. I would even argue easier than the Firebase Sea Orda. Maybe it's because I had the Helion Salvo, but it really shouldn't have been this easy. It feels like the developers spent most of their development time on this map carefully and scientifically constructing the most painful Easter egg imaginable, just for them to extend the Easter egg hunt. And then they sort of forgot to make a boss fight, so they made an extra large Brutus. It's still pretty impressive to me that this Easter egg was solved in less than a week. Like, that's insane. But if I'm being honest, the Easter egg is the only thing that I hate about this map. The map's gameplay as like a survival map where I'm, just casually killing zombies and whatnot, it's not too bad. I like the Magma Gat, I like training on the roof, it's a lot of fun. And this is the only map in the entire game where there is no napalm zombies and no Nova crawlers. And that makes the map much better than you would realize in Black Ops 4. But did this map make me want to have more remakes in the future? The answer is no. But what about that other remake? Was it any good? Let's talk about Classified now. There's little I have to say about Classified, and it's because this map has no content in it. The point of Classified is basically the same thing as the Giant. The thing is, though, the Giant worked much better because it was in much better circumstances. 5 is designed in a way that makes it more chaotic and difficult. The map is very small and narrow. There's always very little spacing everywhere you go. The two forms of map travel, the elevators and the teleporters, are not very reliable. Especially the teleporters, which send you to a random location beyond your control. The wonder weapon, the Winter's Howl, is a complete piece of useless shit. And there's very little perk variety on 5, and not to mention the good old Pentagon Thief. After you turn on the power, every 5 to 6 rounds, a Pentagon Thief will spawn in. The Pentagon Thief will try to catch you to get one of your guns that you're holding. All of this leads to a very chaotic experience. But along with that, we have a set of 4 characters only unique to this map. Robin McNamara, Fidel Castro, Richard Nixon, and fucking John F. Kennedy. Never have I thought that I was gonna be playing as JFK along with Fidel Castro in a zombies map set in the Pentagon. This was one of 5's main selling points. You're playing as 4 of the biggest figureheads in the Cold War in a zombies map that is extremely chaotic, which makes Classified in comparison just very jarring. Yes, we're still in the Pentagon, and now we're playing as the Ultimates crew, but it just doesn't feel right. Not only that, but they also made the map significantly easier. They removed the Pentagon Thief, they added in dogs for max ammos, they made the teleporters go to wherever you want them to go. They added perk variety to this map. The map has become so much easier. And again, it just doesn't feel right to me. Now, it's not like the map is awful, right? But it just feels very lackluster in comparison. The difference between this map and, say, Blood of the Dead is that Blood of the Dead is a much more different experience than Mob of the Dead, while Classified is just a lackluster version of 5. Speaking of lackluster, this map has little content in it. There's only one side Easter egg for a buffed version of the Winter's Howl. It's not like the buff did anything cool. There's the main Easter egg, which is the worst Easter egg ever created, where you have to go to round 150 to get the cutscene. Oh, and fun fact, they actually planned for this to be round 255 instead of round 150. Like, honestly, if that doesn't radiate bitterness, then I genuinely don't know what does. And the cutscene is based on the mini story that's on this map, where the 4 Ultimates characters were supposed to go to Moon after Shangri-La, but they get intercepted and they go into the Pentagon by accident. And in the ending cutscene, we see them trapped inside the Pentagon, wanting to escape. Honestly, with an idea like that, you have a lot to work with. Could you imagine if there was an Easter egg where you have to escape the Pentagon? But I guess round 150 is definitely more creative than anything I can ever come up with. Okay, so we have a map that was going in the right direction in terms of design until it made very confusing and weird choices. And you have another map that is basically a lackluster version of the previous one. And both of them have very terrible Easter eggs. I'm pretty sure that developers looked at the reception that both of these maps were getting, and they fine-tuned the other 2 maps to not have these problems, right? Well, they did, kind of. After the end of Ancient Evil, Treyarch was sent to be working on Cold War by Activision's demands. So the last 2 Zombies DLC was mostly made by an Activision firm in Shanghai. And because of this, most of Black Ops 4's content has been completely scrapped. It's the reason why things like factions, custom mutation challenges, and the last Chaos map were never released. And from what I'm guessing, their manpower became a fraction of what it used to be. Anyway, let's go to Alpha Omega now. First, let's talk about the setting, because I think in this case it's very important. Now, this map's setting can be very jarring for some people. On one hand, we're exploring a Broken Arrow facility that's set in a nuke test site. On the other hand, we're playing in fucking Nuketown for what feels like the 300th time. Now, I don't have a problem with it being Nuketown. The thing is that it just, like, it's a Broken Arrow facility. You could have made this so much more interesting. Look at a map like Zetsubo where it's set in Division 9's facility, and you see what the Japanese did with Element 115. Or look at Project End Station in D Machine, where you're sent to another fucking dimension. Visual storytelling can really add to the experience, and this map doesn't even try. Another problem with this is that the map layout is very clunky. It's not like Blood of the Dead where getting to where you want to go can take a while. It's the spacing that's really the problem, especially in the bunker below. And this is Black Ops 4 that we're talking about here, an engine that's already not suited for training, so this makes it significantly worse. As for the setup, there isn't that much to it. Turn on the power in the top floor, go downstairs, turn on the generator, fix 4 valves in the houses up top, and you got Pack-a-Punch. And since the main necessities, power and Pack-a-Punch, are very simple, and most people can figure them out, it makes early rounds on this map pretty good. However, there's one very unnecessary feature about the Pack-a-Punch, and that is that it can actually turn off. Yeah, it can turn off. You know how in Origins there are Templar rounds that destroy one of the generators if you don't get there fast enough? The game gives you wiggle room to go there, and it gives you a max ammo for killing the Templar zombies. Even though I despise this about Origins, at the very least the game gives you the opportunity to stop the Templar zombies. In Alpha Omega, one of the ventilation units that you fixed for Pack-a-Punch will randomly malfunction, and there's nothing you can do about it. The game will randomly force you to recalibrate those ventilation units, and by the way, if you leave one off for enough time, another one will go off, so that's 2. And unlike the Origins generators, where all you have to do is interact with them and then you're inside this little lockdown, the way you repair these ventilation units is that you have to keep holding the interact button on them for about 10 seconds. And every time you try to fix them, the game will spawn in 3 to 4 zombies that have buffs. Okay, look, if you're gonna do that for the first time I open up Pack-a-Punch, fine, okay, I can deal with that. But you deliberately turning off Pack-a-Punch for literally no reason whatsoever, and then you force me to fix one of the ventilation units, and on top of that, you spawn in more buffed zombies. Oh, and the buff that you give them is not only in health, but in strength and speed. Why? What the fuck is the point of removing my progress and making it more difficult for me to get it back? It doesn't accomplish anything other than being a complete waste of time. Another thing that I hate about this map is the enemy types. There's 3 enemy types. There's the dogs, which are fine, obviously, but then you have the other 2. The Jolting Jacks and the Nova 6 Bombers. After you turn on the generator for Pack-a-Punch, one of the 2 will spawn in depending on what floor you're in. If you're in the Nuketown area, the Jolting Jacks will spawn in. Jolting Jacks will spawn on top of houses and they will shoot projectiles at you. And they can also teleport. Yes, it is as obnoxious as I'm making it out to be. Look, it's one thing to be teleporting around the place so I can't shoot you that easily. But then you're going to also shoot projectiles from a decently far distance too? Why? But oh, it gets worse. On the bunker level, you have the Nova 6 Bombers. Easily one of the worst enemy types in all of zombies. Remember buffed zombies that I was talking about earlier? Yeah, these are the motherfuckers that caused this. So what this thing does is that it goes to a couple of zombies, 3 to 4 zombies, give them the Ana ultimate, and then you get absolutely thrashed. No, seriously, the buffs these guys get are absolutely no joke. The way zombies work in this game is that slowly as the rounds progress, they get faster, and there's 4 levels to this. First they're walking, then they're running, then they're sprinting, and then they're super sprinting. What the Nova 6 Bomber does is that once a zombie is buffed, whatever speed that they were in will get increased by 1. So if they were walking, now they're running. So if they were sprinting, now they're super sprinting. So they get a sudden boost in speed, and they increase their health. On top of that, the Nova 6 Bomber spawn rate is very frequent, and each one can affect 3 to 4 zombies at once. Now you combine that with a small map that has very little to no spacing whatsoever, you get a gameplay experience that is painstaking and cumbersome. But enough of that pile of shit, let's talk about the wonder weapons. The wonder weapons on this map are 4 ray gun Mark IIs with elemental upgrades. The processes to getting each of them are very simple and easy, which I really appreciate about that, and upgrading them is as simple as putting them in the Pack-a-Punch machine. The first one makes the Raygun Mark II fully automatic, and when you pack-a-punch it, it becomes dual-wield. The second one turns the Raygun Mark II into a shotgun. The third one into an exploding weapon with a charged attack. And the fourth one is a laser beam with unlimited ammo. Now, while the ray guns are pretty useful, the thing about them is that they just feel very uninspired. Okay, look, it does make sense. Broken Arrow used some of 935's research to make these prototype weapons, okay. But, like, last DLC, we got 4 gauntlets from Greek gods. And then you look at the other things that 935 created, like 4 elemental bows, 4 elemental staffs, and all these guys can do is Raygun Mark IIs with different elements. Wow. Okay, so we have a map with very annoying gameplay and with very subpar and uninteresting weapons. So what does it offer in terms of Easter egg? Well, the Easter egg is the only good thing about this map in my opinion. Let's begin with the story. Our characters go into Camp Edward to get the elemental shard, only for them to be stopped by the supercomputer Rushmore. Rushmore tells us that the elemental shard is inside the APD, and the only way to open it is to gain his trust. Rushmore is an AI similar to Sophia from Garrod Krovi, but since it was an American creation made in the Cold War, it is significantly more racist. Anyway, the Easter egg revolves around a bunch of tasks Rushmore asks you to do to gain his trust. Things like inputting access codes that you find around the map, getting items and test subjects for research, stuff like that. It's kind of in the same vein as Garrod Krovi's Easter egg, but a bit more tame and not nearly as interesting. There is only one step that is pretty annoying to do, and that's the Nova Crawler one, where you have to find a red Nova Crawler in the bunker and escort him to a certain area of the map. Escorting it is really annoying because you have to be very close to it, otherwise it won't follow you. And you can also kill it by accident, requiring you to go to the next round so you can escort it again. And you have that with unlimited zombie spawns and Nova 6 bomber spawns. At least the developers had the foresight to make Winter's Wail ineffective against the Nova Crawler so you can escort it. But it's not like it really matters. This step is very annoying. Also, fun fact, if you're playing co-op, all of your teammates have to be present together inside the bunker to be able to find it. The boss fight is you fighting Pernell, or the Avogadro. The Avogadro is basically a walking PNG that randomly attacks you, and instead of fighting it directly, you have to fill zombie souls in 4 different canisters. I know a lot of people like this boss fight. Me personally, not really a big fan of it. I mean, definitely it's a bigger improvement than Blood of the Dead's boss fight, but the thing is, like every other Chaos map's boss fight is way better than this map. All in all, this Easter egg just falls under the lines of forgettable, and it definitely did not even come close to saving this map's, in my opinion, terrible gameplay. We're on our 3rd remake, and all of them have very unique problems to each other. We have 1 DLC left, and we're all hoping to God that this DLC saves this game. Unfortunately, it did not deliver as well as we wanted it to. See all of that? That looks fantastic, looks awesome, looks epic, and this is what Treyarch hyped up for most of the Black Ops 4 cycle. And we don't get to play any of it. So we've been baited twice now, which was something the community didn't appreciate much. The literal end of all of Zombies was somehow marketed worse than the map previous. We're ending Zombies on another remaster with a crew that not a lot of people like. The map hasn't even been released and we're already on weak legs. But okay, let's see what this map offers. First, let's talk about the layout. The layout of this map is actually really good. Probably one of the better layouts in all of Zombies. What this map does is that it takes the Call of the Dead layout and give it a destructible environment, making you have more control over the map's layout. Another mechanic this map introduced is the Hermit, a mechanic on top of the lighthouse that does a bunch of cool shit. You can give him stuff that he can fix, like gearboxes, gives you rewards for completing challenges, and is also a vital part of the setup on this map. Speaking of which, let's talk about that. First thing I have to do is get the power switches on. There's 3 of them. One of them is in spawn for some reason. The second one is on top of the ship, like Call of the Dead. The third one is where I get very confused. So the third one is located in a facility on top of the mountain. So first thing you have to do is you have to get 2 zipline wheels inside the ship, fix 2 zip lines, go on top of the lighthouse, get the zip line handle, and then use that to zip line to the facility. The facility is a pretty large area for what little it gives you. There's only 1 perk here, and that's it. I mean, yeah, this area has a couple of Easter egg steps and even a couple of wonder weapon steps, but was it really necessary to build all of this just for that? I mean, the map already is pretty large, so I don't really understand the point of building this entire area. As for the Pack-a-Punch, it's pretty easy to get. You get 1 rock in this cave, you give it to the hermit, and then you got Pack-a-Punch. It is surprisingly easier to get Pack-a-Punch on this map than it is to get one of the perk machines. I mean, if that doesn't show you how useless that facilities area is, then I really don't know what does. Speaking of Pack-a-Punch, this map adds a new type of Pack-a-Punch. The Golden Pack-a-Punch. Since Black Ops 4 removed double tap, the way of obtaining it is by Pack-a-Punching your weapon 4 times, which is one of the very infamous features that are on this game. So what Treyarch did is that they made the Pack-a-Punch gives you full power from just Pack-a-Punching it once. It's a cool quality of life change, but the thing is like it was already like that. You changed it and then you reverted that change. But instead of reverting it completely, you halfway reverted it. Now look, it's not like I don't appreciate it, I do. It's just it's a very confusing change. Speaking of confusing, let's talk about the wonder weapons on this map. First is a scoped wonder waff. Second is an ice thunder gun. And the third is the thunder gun. So the scoped wonder waff is a nerfed version of the wonder waff. The thunder gun is basically the same. And the tundra gun... Okay, the tundra gun is the thunder gun, but worse. I seriously feel like I'm getting brain damage. Like, why did they create this? What's the point? Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about the enemy types on this map. Hellhounds return, and then there's a napalm zombie and an electrified zombie. The inclusion of the napalm zombie here makes sense because you can use him to get the dynamite pieces. And once you get all of the 3 dynamite pieces, they stop spawning until you use the dynamite. The electrified zombie, on the other hand, serves no other purpose other than to annoy you. There's only one purpose that they serve, and that's one step of the Easter egg that could have been easily removed, so their inclusion is very irritating and pointless. Finally, there's this map's Easter egg. The Easter egg that ended all of the Ether storyline. Out of the 4 remakes in Black Ops 4, this is easily the best Easter egg out of all of them. In terms of gameplay, that is. In terms of storyline, it kind of doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, Primus Nikolai sends the Victus crew to Siberia to construct the Agarthan device. While they're doing that, Nikolai poisons the drinks of all of the other characters to kill them. Once they construct the device, they give it to Nikolai, Nikolai uses it, and then all of the multiverse is gone. Now that's cool and all, but there's one thing I'm not understanding. And that's Monty. It's very clear from the previous map that Monty knows what's going on. So why is he not getting involved at all? You'd think a plan like this that would threaten not only his life but the entire perfect world he's building would be something he want to be involved in. But we don't hear anything from him the entire time. I mean, the guy is capable of teleporting people into different dimensions and time frames, so I'm guessing that he has the ability to teleport into whatever Primus and Ultimus are, or to teleport to Victus, but he doesn't do that. I'm guessing Nikolai somehow managed to hide himself and the rest of the crew from Monty, but how did he even do that? Did he use the summoning key? Did Samantha do it? This is important too, because this time they don't have a backup plan. So Monty kills them and that's the end of the story. It's so contrived and badly written. But hey, I guess when you're on a time constraint, you have to make up anything just to end the story. But if you're ignoring the story and just playing the Easter egg for the gameplay, the Easter egg is actually pretty good. The steps are very coherent and fun. And the Easter egg ends with one of the coolest segments in the entire game, where the entire map changes from ice into a volcano. It's nothing groundbreaking in terms of gameplay, but it's a pretty cool set piece. Tug is probably the only map in Zombies that suffers from it being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that degraded the experience for a lot of people, myself included. But for what terrible circumstances this map was released in, it delivered a lot better than I initially suspected. Now that I'm done talking about all of the maps, let's rank them. Because why not, right? Let's rank them from worst to best. The worst one for me is Alpha Omega. The map layout and the enemy types on this map do not go hand in hand, and they seriously degrade this map's experience. The Easter egg and the wonder weapons are fine, but they don't make up for how terribly designed the enemy types are on this map, making this map for me the worst out of the 4 and putting it in the D tier category. Next to me is Classified. Classified suffers from a severe lack of content. I guess 5 just doesn't fit this engine for me. There are very few maps in zombies where you can be very experimental with and they will still come out as good maps. The only example I can think of currently is the Reese. The map works on basically any engine you want to put it on, unlike 5, which I think only fits Black Ops 1. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. The map takes away a lot of the good qualities 5 had and doesn't replace it with much. The Easter egg is way too brain dead, and I'm pretty sure not a single person at Treyarch Studios ever completed it. Due to it being very lackluster, I will put this map also in the D tier. Now Tog and Blood of the Dead are left. While Tog has a much better Easter egg, I enjoy Blood of the Dead's high rounds way more. I personally am not that much of an Easter egg guy, so I value high rounds way more than I value Easter eggs, and for that reason I will put Tog as the second best and Blood of the Dead as the best out of the 4. Both of them being in the C tier category. And this concludes this video. Initially I planned this to be a Chronicles video, but the thing is, Chronicles is not really a topic I want to talk about, and there isn't that much to talk about anyway. I could make a Chronicles video in the future if I find a way to structure it properly. I no longer have anything to say, so yeah, the video's over.